Before you try to apply for your next online job, you need to watch this video, especially if you are afraid of falling prey to scams. In this video, I'm going to show you how to avoid online scams when you are searching for jobs, because let me tell you something. The same way you are intentional about finding the right jobs, that is the same way scammers are intentional about finding you. So let's dive right in. We're going to dive in with a little story that I'm going to tell you about the time when I almost got scammed, when looking for an online job. I was traveling. I was in medical school. And I needed a job. I had just been terminated. It's so funny because I will tell you, God's grace come upon you when you need it the most. Honestly, like in the most challenging times, that's really when you see God's power and God's strength and God's grace. And I want to tell you also, if you've been on the journey to looking for an online job and you are not getting results, just know that he is with you. Just know that maybe you even stumbling upon this video is in alignment to help you on this journey, right? Anyways, at that time I was traveling. And I was looking for an online job because I had just gotten terminated. And then sorry, I got distracted. I had just gotten terminated abruptly at that. So I was actively applying, and I was going to a new country where I was going to be for 2 months, and I only had like savings worth for a month to live in that new country. And I was like, Lord, I need to learn something right now because I'm going to be here for 2 months and I'm not going to have enough for me to provide for myself. And after that, I had more travels planned. So I applied for this job, and I got interviewed for the job. They were very happy. My profile was perfectly fitting what they were looking for, and it was a great pay. It was going to work very well. During the interview process, they asked me a lot of questions, and I answered the questions appropriately. And then they told me that the next step in the job was to be able to download the company software on my computer, and kind of like start my onboarding and so forth. And it wasn't actually even the company software. It was to download a software that they preferred using. Like, it wasn't like I didn't have to, but I was almost feeling pressured to download that software. But I was like, you know what, either way my computer can handle it. I had a MacBook, one of the latest MacBooks at that time, and I was like, you know what, that's fine. And the interview had gone well, and that was the next step. So I was like, I eventually downloaded that software. And the funny thing is, and I want to be careful when I say this, when you're going to be working with I've worked with a lot of companies, right, where I had to download the company software, like it was either for time tracking, either for something else, and those softwares are like recognized. So when you actually look at the software license, you get you know that it's a legit software. It's being used by different other companies, and they have like all these firewall and all those kind of things, so you know it's legit. But in this case, something just deep down told me that, you know what, you shouldn't have to use that because it's not mandatory. It's optional. And also, I was kind of like feeling pressured by them to download it, so I should have really listened to the voice inside of me that was telling me that. But I was like, you know what, I really need this job because I just got laid off. I need to secure something before I start living in this country where the cost of living is 2 to 3 times higher than where I was living at the time, before I moved there. And so I still went ahead against my best judgment. I wouldn't say against my best judgment, but I guess in that moment when I was in need, right? In real need for a job, I ignored all the red flags. I ignored them, and the main one was that they were kind of like pressuring me to download the software to be able to work with them, without like without feeling any level of security deep down. So anyways, I downloaded that software. The download process was like 4 hours process. So I was like, I'm going to download it then in the morning. I'm going to just continue the installation process and so forth. So I woke up in the morning. I realized that my computer is stuck. My computer is no longer working. And then I see a screen that says, attention, you need to click on this link for the computer to continue working. Call this number now. Like this kind of messages like, call this number now, click on this screen now, like red and green color and blue. That looks like a tech glitch or hack. I was like, Jesus Christ, of all the times when this could be happening, why is it happening now? When I'm in the middle of an interview, when I'm about to be hired by this company, and when I'm about to have these new beginnings and so forth. So I clicked on the link that they asked, as if it wasn't bad enough. At that time, I had to recognize that it was a scam. I clicked on the link, and then it took me to download something else. But then I couldn't download that other thing because my computer was already frozen. and it was just like an entire mess. And then I had to call a phone number. When I tried to call that phone number, that's when they now started telling me that I need to pay for XYZ software to clean up this that happened because my computer had a virus, and they wanted me to like send my card information right away on the phone to be able to clean that virus. And I was like, Jesus Christ. At that point, I felt like, yeah, this doesn't sit right with me. Like, this looks like a huge scam. Like, it looked, whatever they were presenting seemed like the perfect solution to what the issue was. And I was like, but how did that issue start at first? Because this company asked me to download XYZ. So this is how I almost got scammed. At that point, I was like, doesn't sit well with me. I had already been working online for some time, and I'm like, I can feel it, I can sense it, and I should not have had to go through this trouble, and I shouldn't have to pay for anything, even third party, to fix a problem that was created from me following an instruction that the company asked me to follow for me to continue my onboarding process. You know what I mean? And that is how I knew that it was a scam. So from that point on, I didn't even contact that. I didn't even message them again. I'm like, let me try to fix that issue for my computer. My computer was just like completely bamboozled. I used my phone to troubleshoot how to fix XYZ. I went through like a series of rebooting, because I didn't have enough money for me to go to an Apple store and say, hey, can you guys troubleshoot this for me? And XYZ. So I went deep into online forums to figure out how to fix the computer. Eventually I fixed it. Eventually I cleaned it up. It ended up working after like, maybe, I think I probably spent like 2 days trying to figure this out. Eventually it worked out, and I was like, you know what, even though I didn't get this job, I know that I avoided a scam and I avoided a catastrophe. So how to avoid and how to recognize online scams. I made a list of different things that I want to highlight to you whenever it comes to landing an online job, and things that you need to be have your ears and eyes open to. I know eventually, if you are new into the online work sphere, it's probably going to take you more time. The more you apply, the more you put yourself out there, the more you're going to be more astute at recognizing scams. But for now, here are the things that scream red flag when it comes to online jobs. The first one is the job listing seems fake, right? How would you know the job listing is fake? Maybe, the way they write the job listing, the title, the punctuation, there are things like that make you feel like, you know what, that seems a little bit weird for a company that's supposed to be legit. In addition to that, a lot of times when the recruiters don't use their official company email addresses, it can be kind of fishy. You can also tell if a job listing is fake if you cannot trace back to the company, especially if you're applying directly to companies' job boards. So you need to be able to trace back to the company, look up the company, make sure they are legit. Even though, again, scammers can have like legit forward-facing companies, on like legit looking forward-facing companies online. Like, you can have a completely, totally well orchestrated scam online, and it ends up being, and it makes you feel like, it's a real thing, but it ends up being a scam. But most of the time, the job listing would have like some mistakes, some typos. Sometimes you cannot find the name of the company, or it's a little bit confusing. You don't really find people who work at that company, and that could be also a series of red flags that make you think this could be a scam. The other thing is they are asking you for your personal information. A lot of times the scammers will like get you through the job application process, and eventually, like maybe after the first or second interview, or even sometimes like right away, they ask you for things like your personal information, your social security number, driver license photos, or they ask you to upload that information on online platforms where you have to put that. So they give you a link that you should click on to go and complete your application on, and then when you look at application questions, they ask for personal information. Now, companies can send you a link to send your application through, like where you will have your general application information, but the moment that they decide to ask for personal information, like your banking information, social security, IDs, and stuff like that, have your red flag meter on, because it's most likely going to be a scam. Another one could be the fake payments or overpayments, right? Clients like scammers can tell you that, we're going to pay you ahead, for you to XYZ. But generally, when you are applying for a job, and even when you work like a regular job, unless you have a sign-on bonus, there is no ahead payment. Like, you do the work and you get paid. But if they start to say that, we're going to pay you ahead, and then we're going to pay you again and XYZ, and if what they propose to pay you is way more than what you feel like the job should be, the job range is, then you should ask yourself some questions. And probably it is to be a scam. And sometimes when they tell you that they're going to pay you ahead, it makes you feel like, oh wow, I'm going to be paid all this money. But then after that, they tell you need to send us XYZ by Western Union, or you can send us this information for us to make sure that the payment gets to you, or in proper standing and stuff like that. So that's most likely going to be a scam. Another thing is they ask you, instead of telling you that they're going to pay you ahead, some scammers tell you that you need to pay up front for you to have either company equipment or for you to be able to access their training software. Think about it. The last time you worked with a company, right, and they had to onboard you, to start working with them, did they ask you to pay for you to access any information? No. Did they ask you to pay for you to access any training software? No. Exactly. So when a company wants you, they shouldn't be asking you to pay to access training, or to access or to have like specific software. In fact, if there is specific software that is being used at this company, then they provide a license to you for you to use that. They install it, they give you details for you to how to install it on your computer, and they provide you all these accesses. So from the moment that a company is already asking you to pay upfront to access software, gear, equipment, or training materials, run away, it is a scam. Another red flag that you should watch out for when it comes to online jobs is really feeling the pressure to act quickly. A lot of times, some clients, I know there are some companies that are like that tend to hire, like they have like very short hiring time frame, like they really want somebody to start like, next week, within the next, a few hours, not hours, but like next week or two. But sometimes when you are being scammed, you can feel like there's like undue pressure, like we need to start right away, XYZ, that, and a lot of times it shows that they want to get you onboarded and they don't want to do the due diligence. So if you see that, or if you feel that pressure, most likely it's going to be a scam. Another red flag is they want to do interviews over Telegram or WhatsApp. I mean, come on, and you will be surprised because there are some scammers who are that bold, like over Telegram or WhatsApp. Like, I understand, I get that after working with people for like a few weeks and so forth, you can be like, friendly, and then you guys can have like each other's phone number, even if you're working remotely. But doing a work interview over Telegram or WhatsApp, no. Or even taking it a step further, sometimes they ask you to join the Telegram group for you to be able to access a job posting. If you are really hiring, the job posting should be on the platform online that I can access without having to provide my phone number. You know what I mean? So companies or people who are asking me to join Telegram groups or WhatsApp groups, I mean, specifically also I will have my red flag meter on to be like, this seems a little bit fishy. Another red flag that you should be looking out for is a very vague job description, or this can go in two ways. Either the job description is too vague, or it is too detailed and requires too many things for a very low pay. Okay, a lot of times I like to tell my clients that when you are looking for a job description for a job, the more detail the client provides, the better, right? But sometimes they provide way too many details that you don't need in that job posting. And when you look at the pay, it's like, listen, what you're asking me to do doesn't match. Like, the math is not mathing, and it's giving really, you want me to come and be working with you for free, and that doesn't pass the vibe check. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing is the job description is too vague. Like I said, that we are looking for maybe a virtual assistant to do a variety of tasks. We are looking for a bookkeeper to do a variety of tasks. We are looking for an executive assistant to do a variety of tasks. What do you mean by a variety of tasks? Like, what is the spectrum of this variety? Where do we start? Where do we end? What are the hours and so forth? So also, too much information can be a red flag. Also, too little information can be a red flag, and that's something to look out for. There are many other ways in which you can detect red flags, in a job posting that will tell you like, this is a scam, run for your money, run away, and run for your life, right? And I want to do a second part of this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below of the video. Let me know in the comments. But this should already help you to figure out, when I'm going in my job search journey, these are the things that I should be on the lookout for. And in my remote work fast track accelerator that you probably have already heard me talk about several times from the beginning of these videos, I'm going to dive deeper into how to identify scams, because in that accelerator, over the course of the 6 weeks that we're going to be working together, if you save your spot, we're actually going to be applying for jobs during those 6 weeks. We're going to have specific dedicated days when we are applying for jobs, and you are also going to be more familiar with identifying those scams and knowing how to say this is not right and this is right. So I'm going to put a link to the accelerator in the comments of this video, and if you have any questions, let me know. If you also have a topic or question that you want me to cover in the next upcoming videos, let me know as well. For the rest of the year, every single day I'm going to be dropping a video on this channel to encourage you, to coach you, to teach you, and to share what I've learned and ways in which you can speed up your remote job search process and eventually land an online job. And if you want support from me, you know where all the links are. On this note, see you in the next video.